Well, hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to Focus on It Friday with Dr. Brandy B. That's me. I'm Dr. Brandy B. Today we are talking about a subject that is probably not as exciting as other topics we discuss, but it's something that's necessary, so we're going to talk about it. It's Suicide Prevention Month. And so, I want to keep you current, up to date, and informed. And that means that we have to talk about the hard stuff that comes with this field. We've got one person watching, Ms. Layla Townsend. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Focus on It Friday with Dr. Brandy B. As you all come on in, just let us know that you are here. Tell us who you are, and we'll say hello back. But I am Dr. Brandy B. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Facebook usually takes a couple of minutes to tell people that we're here and for them to find us. So we want everybody to have a chance to come on. We've got Auntie Julia Bell here. Hello. And Mama Diane is watching. Hello. Very important topic. Again, no one ever wants to talk about the sad stuff, like death in general. And certainly not death when it is self-inflicted or self-caused. But it happens, and so we have to talk about it. Give everybody one more minute to come in, and then we'll get started. So you all can have a beautiful Friday afternoon wherever you are. All right. I think I said I have 1 minute, so there we go. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm Dr. Brandy B., your triple board certified child and adolescent psychiatrist, adult psychiatrist, and pediatrician. And through my Facebook live stream, Focus on It Friday, I help worried moms, dads, and just those who need good information get all the information they need so that their children and loved ones can be successful in the classroom and in life. Today, we are talking about suicide prevention. Of course, September is the month that is set aside for Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. And so I wanted to bring to your attention some of the things that you should know. I often get the phone call, oh my God, my child said they wanted to blow up their bedroom and kill everybody in the house. And this child is like 4 or 5, and they don't even know what that means. They think that they're going to all get killed and then wake up. And so we just have to have some conversations and some education to figure out what's going on. So just some definitions to begin. Suicide is when one person takes their own life, all right? So it is not being killed by anyone else or having anyone else to do anything to you. It is intentionally taking one's life. So it would not be, I fell off of something unintentionally. It would not even be overdoses where a person, did not have intentions on dying. They just misread, misunderstood, or thought that by taking more, it would actually lead to sleep, for example. So suicide is death when one takes their own life. A suicide attempt is anything that one does with intention of taking their own life, except that they don't die. If it was a suicide attempt, it means that they made the attempt but were not successful. And then suicidal thoughts or ideation are those thoughts that people have about death or dying or even about suicide. And I kind of break that down a little bit further. Some people wish or hope that they would die, and I call that passive thoughts, where I just hope that I would die. And then there are actual, plans of death, which would be where people have intentions of doing something. Whether a person has a plan, that elevates concern to another level. And then if they have intent, which would be that they have a plan and they're going to do it as soon as possible. So those are levels and things that we actually care about. Fred's getting the mail from the office. So we've got some stuff there. All right. So I just want to give you a couple of stats. The last stats that have come out, so statistics kind of lag behind. And the last stats that came out were from 2021. And instead of being 10th, the 10th leading cause of death in the USA, like it was in 2019, suicide had gone down to number 11. So that's good. 48,183 Americans died by suicide as of 2021, and that's a year. 1.6 1.7 million suicide attempts. 1.7 million suicide attempts in 2021, but only 48,000 deaths, okay? Suicide rate is highest in middle-aged white men, and they made up about 70% of suicide attempts in 2021. 132 people suicide a day. 132 people suicide a day. That's a lot of people. 54% of your suicidal deaths are going to be by firearms. And people go to that when they are really determined and they want to make sure that they are successful. And 94% of adults surveyed in the USA think that suicide can be prevented, which is an interesting thought, because people who have suicidal thoughts and intentions and plans, they can be very persistent. They can know how to do all the things to not have other people concerned and trying to interfere with their plans. And so the notion that more people than not, almost 100% of people think that we can prevent that, that's really, really, really interesting. But let's say that you can prevent it. What do you need to do? That's what we want to talk about today. So how can you take action to prevent suicide? And of course, we're going to use ACTION as an acronym. The A is to get aware and become educated. Saying what a person will or will not do when they've expressed that to you is the absolute wrong way to go about that. If your child comes to you and they say that they have suicidal thoughts or wants, thoughts of death, or they feel hopeless even, the next thing that you want to do is talk to them more. See how much information you can gather. See if they understand how serious of a thing it is. And educate yourself on what that means. Are they depressed? Are they anxious? Are they being bullied? Are they gay? Or, have some other sexual orientation that they don't feel comfortable talking to you about or being around you? Do they feel less than because their grades are not where they need to be? Do they feel like an outcast because everybody in the family or their school does X and they don't know how to, aren't smart enough to, aren't as athletic as others to be able to do that? Try to figure out what the reason is that they feel that way and then get them some help. But becoming aware and educated about suicide and not simply saying, oh, you don't feel that way, is definitely not the way that you want to go. You want to make sure that your children are heard, and that their concerns are validated, because that is what's going to be the thing that's going to be top of the list to keeping them from suiciding. So the A in action to prevent suicide is to get aware and to become educated. Make sure that some of the things that you're saying are not hurtful, like you don't even know what depression is. Well, actually, children do know, and adults certainly do. So they know what they feel like when they're sad. So, those kinds of things can be very harmful, very dismissive, and it says to them, my parents don't believe me when I tell them something. All right, the C in action to prevent suicide is be caring and non-judgmental. Again, I just said some of those examples. So you want to validate your child, make sure that you hear them, tell them, and it's even okay to say, I really don't understand that, what that feels like, but I'm going to do my best to understand it and get you what you need. I think that is perfectly fine, instead of dismissing a child and saying, go somewhere and sit down. Because they have feelings too, and they can be hurt even by you. So making sure that you're speaking caring words that are not judgmental is extremely important. The T in action is to get treatment. Now, a lot of times when people call me and they say my child is having suicidal thoughts, or my child just attempted suicide, they want me to see them and talk to them and give them a medicine. Wrong answer. If you or your loved one is having suicidal thoughts, you need to go to the hospital. There is nothing that I can give you medication-wise that's going to work as quickly as it needs to if you are so depressed that you're having suicidal thoughts. often there's just a chemical imbalance, as people say, and so there's depression there, or something has happened that the person needs to work through. Trauma, sexual abuse, things of that nature. And so part of getting treatment is going to the hospital to be evaluated. So many people overdose, cut themselves, and do things and never seek medical treatment. Most of the times, if they've done well without it, they didn't need it. But one of the things that you want to do is to see if the person is still in a state of wanting to die, such that if they go back home, they may make another attempt real soon, okay? And then some people need hospitalization. And just a word on mental health hospitalizations. The way that I explain it to my families is that in my world as a pediatrician, there's outpatient, there's step down units in the hospital, there's the floor in the, there's outpatient going to the floor, which is just general where everybody is. Then there's going to step down, which is a step down from the ICU. And then there's going to the ICU. And so if what you're doing on an outpatient basis is not working, then going and seeking a higher level of care is the next best thing to do. So it may not be that you want them to be hospitalized, and I encourage parents and families to not think of it as a punishment, but it's the next level of care. It is what that person needs because they are so sick that what is happening on an outpatient basis is not working for them. And so, yes, I think all of your inpatient units are going to be locked. There will be strict visiting hours. There will be strict calling hours. But this is what the person needs to get well. This is what the person needs to get well. All right, so that's the T, to treat. So the action to prevent suicide is going to be being aware, getting educated, using caring and non-judgmental words, and then treatment, either through medication, seeing a doctor, going to the hospital. All right, I, instruments. So what you want to do is to hide anything that could be an instrument that one would use for suicide. Now, I know that may be extremely difficult to do because knives can be used in suicide. So if you just put away your strongest, sharpest knives, that may be what you need to do to reduce the risk of the child or the adult suiciding by a knife. If there are firearms in the home, making sure that they are locked away in an appropriate cabinet or safe, then that is what you want to do as well. All right, thank you to Latina for coming on, and my auntie Brenda, and Duramius Leonard. Thank you all so much for joining. All right, now the O in action. Understand that suicidal thoughts or passive thoughts of just wanting to die are actually often ongoing, meaning that the first time that a person has that thought may not be the last time. But each time that they have the thought, you need to consider it as an individual occurrence and not say, well, last time they didn't do anything or last time they didn't keep them at the hospital. You need to look at each episode, each threat, each thought as its own occurrence and consider it as seriously as you did the one before, especially based off what they did the time before. So if they went through with an attempt and ended up in the ICU for a month, that's a huge deal, and we definitely want to take that into consideration before dismissing that they're just mad because they didn't get their way. All right, and then the N is to never blame yourself. And the reason that I say this, with all of our best efforts, there are some people that are as determined to die as most of us are determined to live. And so we can have sitters around them and do all of the things that we know to do, and they just may have trouble and slip through the crack at some point and actually suicide. So how do we increase hope, right? Because there's an inverse relationship between hope and suicide risk. So if we can increase hope, that means that there is a less risk that people will suicide. And so hope, H-O-P-E, if we can improve people's health, mental, medical, and social, then they will do better. Take drugs out of the equation. And because drugs can make people very impulsive, so if you take drugs out of the equation, people are less likely to just do impulsive things that they have not thought through. All right. And of course, hopelessness is a feature of depression. So if we can get people's depression treated before it ever gets to the point where they're feeling super hopeless, that's going to be better for them as well. All right. The O, overworked and underworked, or underpaid. Nobody's complaining about being overpaid. But any of those things makes a person feel, how can I go on when I'm working my fingers to the bone and I can barely make the ends meet? Okay. And then the P in hope is pain. Pain is another big one that makes people suicide because, some people feel that their doctors are not listening to them, think they're drug seeking. And then some people just honestly cannot get their pain to be controlled. And that is very debilitating. It can be very depressing when you're not as mobile as you thought you would be or that you once were. All right. And then end of life or relationships. So among those that are at the highest group of people by age who suicide are those 85 years and younger. You're probably thinking, what in the world do they have to suicide for? Well, their friends, their family, their children, and others have gone on either by death or just because they have not been paying attention to them. And so that leaves them at the end of life wondering more than other people maybe. Nobody loves me. Nobody needs me. What use am I? Okay? So we always have to watch those who are 85 and up. And then another risk would be end of life or relationship. So when there are breakups and these teenagers, and I tell you, I have at least 3 or 4 a year that come in after a breakup. Usually it's boys too, so watch your teenage boys. They come in, some girls broke up with them, and they have the hardest time adjusting. So keep that in mind as well. All right. So we're going to take action to prevent suicide. We're going to stay aware and educated. We're going to be caring and non-judgmental. We're going to give the treatment, whether it's hospitalization or medication or therapy or all three. You want to remove the instrument that they use. That's the risk. You want to have an ongoing process of thinking, is this something I need to act on, or is this threat not that big of a deal? And then you want to end, never blame yourself. Because again, people who suicide, they've thought this out and planned it out for a long time. And so as soon as they can, it may just be something that they're going to do. All right. Well, that is all that I have for today. Like I said, I knew it wouldn't be a real heavy one with a whole bunch of questions and shouts and amens. But you do need to know that if somebody comes to you and says that they are having thoughts of death, suicide, anything like that, you need to have a plan on who to call. And getting them to the emergency room is one of the easiest things you can do. Call 911. But you also may be able to call if they have a psychiatrist, to call their number as well. All right. Well, that is all that I have for today. If you all don't have any questions, then we will see each other next week. I hope you all have a good week, and I hope that you are always remembering to shine. Look out for your loved ones and your family, because we are family, and I want everybody to be here next week. All right, we will see you all next week. Until then, I'm Dr. Brandy B, your triple board certified pediatrician, adult psychiatrist, and child and adolescent psychiatrist. And through my Facebook live stream, Focus on It Friday, at Worried Moms and Dads and other relatives and friends get the education that they need so their loved ones can be stars in the classroom and in life. You all have a good weekend, and I'll see you alive and well